Good morning. I'm Dave Crouch, and this is the Public Affairs Roundtable hosted monthly by the Williamson, Inc., our Williamson Chamber of Commerce, and we're glad to have you with us this morning. Got a great audience here with us this morning, and we're glad to have you all here. Our guest this morning, Mayor Betsy Crossley from the City of Brentwood, and Kirk Bednar, who is the City Manager at the City of Brentwood. And we're excited to have them with us this morning to give us a update on all the things going on behind the scenes and a few of them above the scenes. And Ms. Betsy, tell us again, you've been mayor how long? And
well, I was elected to the commission in 2007, was mayor in 2009 until 11, then took a couple of years off as mayor, and then came back again in 13. So.
Okay, in case someone doesn't understand the way Brentwood elects their mayor, explain that process a little bit.
There's 7 city commissioners, and every election the city commissioners decide who will be the mayor and the vice mayor, and rarely is it the same 2 people every time. So we have staggered elections, 3 people one time, 4 people the next time, and we elect our own mayor and vice mayor within the 7 individuals. So that's how that works.
So you're elected by your peers.
We are.
And that's worked well in the city of Brentwood.
It has.
As long as Brentwood's been a city. Kirk, you're a rookie almost. You're how long have you been city manager?
I've been city manager now for about a year and a half. Was appointed in January of 2013, but I've been with the city for actually just 14 years earlier this month. So was assistant city manager from September of 2000 until being appointed city manager. So new in the city manager position, but not completely new to the city.
That was a joke. And trained by one of the best too.
My predecessor, Mike Walker, was city manager in Brentwood for almost 23 years. So and still see a lot of Mike and appreciate him bringing me into the city of Brentwood.
Lots of stability there, and that's in many ways a good thing. And let's talk a little bit about the city and their planning for the future. I know you've just recently received the results back from the 2020 plan. The survey, that's a survey. Explain how that works, Madam Mayor.
Well, we actually went out for consultants and had them meet our requirements as to what we were looking for in the 2020 plan was what were people's vision of where the city was going to go for the next until 2020, and that it's a follow-up of a couple of other visioning processes we've done since 1999, and we wanted to make sure that we reached all 13,000 households within the city of Brentwood. And we got the results back, and questions asked were, what type of downtown center do you envision? What do you think are the best things that are happening in Brentwood? What are some of the problems that you see in Brentwood? And just issues that we could address as a city commission. And we found some very interesting things.
Great. Now, Kirk, what would you say, I'm going to let you answer this question, but what would you say were their top 3 issues, problems that they were?
Yeah, if you look at the survey results, and I don't think this would be a surprise for anybody who knows Brentwood or really knows Middle Tennessee or Williamson County, the top concern was traffic and the continued growth in traffic. And coupled with that then is just really development, both the pace of it and the amount of it were the main things. And then after that, both preservation of green space, which is a big issue in Brentwood, was a little farther down the list, and the issue of housing options for seniors, I think were probably kind of the 5 top things, but predominantly traffic and development, which go hand in hand, as we all know. Right. And then the aging community and trying to preserve green space. Okay.
Now, Madam Mayor, what were their favorite things about Brentwood? What's different about Brentwood that the residents?
Well, clearly one of the major things that people are thrilled with is our library. It is clearly the crown jewel of our of our city. They enjoyed the 1 acre density. That was a theme throughout. They really appreciated the ability to have some land to live with. And did make comments off and on about the school system as well, and how much they appreciate Brentwood's support of that.
So, lots of things to be thankful for.
Yeah, let me follow up if I can. I think the
Sure.
important thing, and it's the same, I think, for all of us in Williamson County, is a matter of perspective. If you look at, there was a question about just overall satisfaction with quality of life in Brentwood, and 98% of the people were either satisfied or very satisfied with quality of life. So that's kind of an underpinning of things. Now, do we have problems? Yes, but there are problems that a lot of communities would wish that they had. So we've got things we need to work on, but I think we need to realize that we're all pretty blessed here, not just in Brentwood, but in Williamson County.
Right. Now, you've got a special census underway or coming
We
up?
do. We are just really in the midst of it. Folks, everybody in Brentwood should have got a census card in their mail early last week. The way things work in Tennessee, there's a significant amount of money that comes back to local governments based upon your population. So the state allows you to do a special census in between the federal censuses that are every 10 years. So our 2010 population was 37,060, I believe, was the final number. We believe with development since then, we're probably 40,000 or a little bit over. So we do a special census, and for every extra person we count, it's about $110 extra revenue per person from the state. So if we can collect or capture another 3,000 people, that's about $330,000. So we're underway with that, and hopefully we can complete that here in the next couple months. Had a good response so far.
Right. Anything else in the planning area being done right now? Ms.
Ma'am?
Betsy?
Well, we've got a lot of things being considered. They're coming forward within the next few months. Certainly our noise ordinance is one thing that's coming forward. We are continuing to see interesting things happening at the Boyle development at City Park. The buildings are coming up every day and looking great, so there'll be new restaurants there ready for us to go. We have a lot of residential areas that are coming in on the outskirts of town that we're looking at. So we continue to grow, and planning continues to stay busy, no doubt about it.
Let's go back to City Park just a minute, the Boyle development. Tell us what's going on there for those of us that don't get to the center of Brentwood every day.
The City Park is the new name, or I guess it's about a year old now, for what was the Koger Center, I think, and was Synergy, and it's had a few different names. But it's the older office park right on Franklin Road, just south of Church Street, Maryland Way there. The Boyle group bought that about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and are in the midst of a redevelopment of it. If anybody's been down Franklin Road, you really can't miss it. But it's a combination of a couple different things. It's also home to the Moreland Mansion, one of the historic homes there in Brentwood. So a couple things going on there. First is around the mansion is the development of a new hotel, the Hilton Garden Inn Hotel, 126 rooms, I believe, that will kind of wrap around the mansion, maintain the integrity of the mansion, and match it in terms of architecture. And so some of the site work and prep work is underway for that. And then out front of the mansion, as you head out to Franklin Road, is a private road, Executive Center Drive. And Boyle is redeveloping that and putting retail, one-story retail, kind of in a little bit of a downtown type feel. Obviously, not quite the same thing, but
Right.
street front. There'll be some retail restaurants, about 40,000 square feet of retail and restaurants in this first phase, and there will be a little bit of a kind of a village green out in front of the historic home that'll add like a little bit of a community feel to it. So you'll have the opportunity for restaurants to have some outdoor seating and some activities going on in that green. So it's really a little bit of a unique setting that you don't have really in Brentwood today, which most of our commercial retail development is more of the shopping center type. So it'll be a different look of things. And you can see those retail buildings going up right now along Franklin Road.
Okay. Now, right across the street, the Hill Center has just been approved, I know. Is that going to be the name of that going forward, or is there?
Yeah, I believe that the existing shopping center just to the south there, where Puffy Muffin and Whole Food or Fresh Market is. It's called the Hill Center, and I think they intend to just kind of continue that name over to the new center. So it'll still be Hill Center Brentwood.
How did they get that approved so smoothly?
That's your question, Mayor.
Yeah. It was definitely a work in progress. I think everybody understood that that corner needed something very special on it. And after about 18 months of interesting discussion and community envisionment, I'm glad to say that we finally came up, I think, with a very good plan. Combination of commercial and office, and more importantly, incorporating one of our longtime 30-year business residents in the city, Lattimore Black. They are going to be the anchor there at the corner of Maryland Way and Franklin Road. Mm-hmm. So it was good to keep them. They needed to expand. We needed more retail. There's going to be some extra retail there that's going to front Franklin Road. It's going to be fantastic. It will be a phased project. It's going to take a while, and we are looking for the beginning of that movement with the demolition of the Baptist Convention Center starting about October 1st, according to the schedule. So
right.
Changes happening everywhere on Franklin Road there.
Right. I guess my comment that it went so smoothly, I mean, it took 18 months to make it go smoothly, but I have never seen a public hearing as unanimous as that one. And I think that's speaks a lot, not only to the developer, but to the city and the staff and you all that listen and work with not only the developer, but the residents that have
This proposal was more than just the public hearing. At all of the open hearings, discussions with the developers that they did on a private basis with people, and really all the discussions, there were no people that spoke out against it. It's an amazing thing. So people really understood it. We need that.
Right.
Well, and to follow up, Dave, I think your point is exactly right. It really is a testament both to the developer and to the community, because obviously a little over a year ago or so, we would have been sitting here talking about the original proposal for that corner and the problems that it had, and the developer, to his credit, went back, took some time, thought about what he wanted to do with that property, and came back with a process that really involved the community on the front end.
Right.
Got their input, and to the community's credit, they all realized that, that was a commercially zoned corner. It wasn't as if nothing was going to happen on that property.
Right.
So people recognize that something's there. It's too much valuable land, both in terms of just property value and in terms of identity for the city of Brentwood. So they knew something was going to happen, and really, by the time it officially came to the city, both the developer and the surrounding neighbors were really on the same page, and that's really what allowed it to flow so smoothly once it officially got into the process at the city.
Right. Well, it certainly, what I witnessed was a smooth process, and that is maybe a lesson to all municipalities to take a look at. So now you're going through the same process down in the Cool Springs area with what you call the flagpole property. What stage are you in there?
The old flagpole property, kind of north of Moores Lane, south of Concord Road. As you know, the southern part of that was rezoned back in 2010 to allow for some more commercial development, and surprisingly has become a luxury car mecca with Audi and Mini Cooper and BMW coming, and Porsche. And then the northern part of that, the city received about 24 acres for park property, kind of as a buffer between that commercial development and the neighborhoods to the west and to the north. So we're in the process right now of trying to master plan that park. It's kind of two separate tracks, but again about 24 acres, mainly passive, geared more towards those immediately adjacent neighborhoods. So we've got a consultant on board to help us do that. We've got a community meeting next Monday night, a week from today, at the library, and then we'll have some follow-up meetings with the HOAs from those neighborhoods, but really trying to plan that park for them for an amenity in that kind of south central section of town. Mm-hmm. So we're excited about that. Again, it's not a bunch of athletic fields or are going to solve the problem for some of the athletic users who think they need more fields, but it's going to be a great amenity for that community and kind of connect a couple of those neighborhoods together, we think.
And Dave, this is another example of a rather contentious piece of property for 30 years that when the community became engaged in the discussion and actually had some feedback into the process and the rezoning, things began to work a lot smoother, and now these folks have a park that they'll be also opining on as well and have that right in their backyard. But it took the whole community to, again, make this rezoning happen.
Right. Well, it certainly I can attest to the fact that it's been in the news many times over the last 30 years, and it sounds like you're possibly going to get it right this time and make it actually happen. Anything else in the development pipeline that you can talk about, Kirk?
Well, there's, as the mayor mentioned, we've got some, subdivisions coming online. Obviously, we're certainly, I think, well out of the economic downturn that happened back in '08, and we're seeing a lot of activity. I think not just in Brentwood, but throughout Middle Tennessee. But the issue, several proposals in the works right now. Some have kind of come and gone. Some are still working out there. Is the issue of senior living facilities, and the ones we're seeing now are not what I would call senior neighborhoods in terms of detached homes for seniors, but these are senior living facilities that usually have a combination of independent living and assisted living, and usually some type of memory care type facility. So I had one that was proposed a few months back on what we call the Dolphin Club, the old little at the corner of Wilson Pike and Split Log or Old Smyrna Road, and that one really never got any traction. We've got another one being discussed that may be on our agenda for the City Commission to consider at the first meeting in October. But obviously there's been an identified need as the population ages here, not just in Brentwood again, but in all of Williamson County. So those are facilities that under our current zoning fall under what we call C1, which is our commercial zoning district. So for those to be built today requires a piece of property to be zoned commercial. So we're discussing the issues related to that. As it folks who live near these proposals say, I don't necessarily disagree with that use, but I don't want a commercially zoned piece of property next to my neighborhood. And so as part of the 2020 process, we're discussing the issue of should there be some new zoning classifications to deal specifically with senior housing, and that's another issue we're dealing with now. But as it is today with these proposals coming forward, it's the commercial classification that we have to deal with.
Right, good deal. Road improvements. Traffic is it's an issue for all of us, I think, in Williamson County. And Concord Road, how long has Concord Road been under construction, Kirk?
You asked, I came here in September of 2000 is my first job, and my first project within the first month was the master plan for construction of Concord Road, and it finally got started in 2010, the first phase. So, and I know the Mayor of Franklin is here. We all lament how long it takes to get a road project started, especially when you got state route involved. But Concord Road, we're in the big project, as we call it, which is Sunset Road out to Nolensville Road, the eastern leg there. Started last, I guess earlier this year, late last year, and will go really until May of 2016. So we've got another year and a half of that. It's going fairly well. There's no road closures or detours. It's just keeping traffic open, which is difficult in a narrow section like that.
Right.
But the contractor's doing a good job on that. And then there's another phase of Concord that the city's managing, which is from Wilson Pike to Arrowhead, a little closer in towards I-65, which is the last kind of unimproved section that has had no work on it. Anybody who drives Concord Road knows that little narrow section in front of Indian Point where the trees seem to be poking out into the road. We just received word last week from TDOT with a notice to proceed towards bidding that project. So we'll be working to bid that project this fall and probably start it early part of next year. And that will be more of a 3-lane widening just to make it a little safer, provide some turning lanes, and then some bike and pedestrian facilities along it also. But Concord Road will be, one part or another will be under construction easily for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and we recently finished the portion in between, so it's...
Yeah, it's, again, Concord Road is a state route. Not everybody remembers that.
We, meaning the state, yeah.
Right.
So, and it's the gateway to East Brentwood and a lot of neighborhoods out that way. And it's also, obviously become the cut across for a lot of folks coming from Rutherford County and southern parts of Davidson County,
Right.
which adds to the traffic challenge that we have.
Right.
So we are the deal we have with TDOT generally is we design the improvements, we buy the right of way, and they have funded the construction of it. So the big project out east is a TDOT contract, TDOT managed project.
Right.
The smaller one coming up will be we have some federal funds for the city, but we'll be managing that project. And like I say, that'll start beginning of the year and take probably 12 to 18 months also.
Well, tell everyone that it's worth waiting for. My blood pressure is much lower on the way home these days because of the Mac Hatcher project that was finished recently over to Highway 96. Now, Mr. Mayor, if we can get the rest of it done, my blood pressure will go back to normal. I can go off the blood pressure medicine. But those projects are, I know they're frustrating while you're going through them, but they make a huge difference.
They do, and the challenge long-term for traffic for all of us is, there is a limit to how much asphalt or concrete we can put on the ground in terms of be it cost or be it available land. And the benefits of those traffic-wise are significant, but they're not always long-term because, unfortunately, studies have shown that as you build more lanes, over time they eventually get filled back up. So it's not, building asphalt isn't always going to be our way out of traffic problems.
One more improvement they're also doing on Concord Road that helps, speaking of the growing number of cars, we had cars queuing out into the interstate at peak hours, especially in the afternoon. And so TDOT is now making improvements in the ingress and egress, the lanes of the entrance ramp there at Concord Road. And that'll take a while, but it's really going to help things as well.
On the Mac Hatcher project, that is what surprised me about, if you just get the cars that are trying to turn out of the way,
Right.
you can move a lot more traffic. So it's makes a big difference. Now, I understand, and y'all didn't mention this, but I understand that Franklin Road is going to have a major widening. Is that?
That's correct, yes. Franklin Road from just south of Concord Road to just south of Moore's Lane into Franklin is set to be widened to 5 lanes. And so that's another one of those projects where the city of Brentwood funded the engineering design of it, and we are just now kicking off the purchase of right-of-way.
Right.
And as you get into Franklin, the city of Franklin came on board and agreed to let that transition go a little farther south of Moore's Lane to allow that traffic to better transition back to the 2-lane section. So Franklin is helping out in south of Moore's Lane. So that probably, you figure right-of-way acquisition, there's about 57 or so tracts of land that we have to acquire right-of-way for. Not always an easy or pleasant process for landowners there. So that's probably a 12-month process of right-of-way. So we're still a couple years out before you see actually any construction there. But again, it will be a 5-lane section all the way from, take that, what it looks like north of Concord Road and continue that down to south of Moore's Lane. There will be a bike pedestrian path on the east side running all the way from Concord Road down to Moore's Lane to provide some bike and pedestrian access facilities there.
Right.
Now, I just want to make a point here too, that there's a lot of cooperation between cities and the county within Williamson County. This is just an excellent example of Franklin and Brentwood working together, and at that same intersection of Moore's Lane and Franklin Road, we shared a tornado warning signal there basically to erect that. So it's the cooperation between, thank you, Mayor, the city of Franklin and city of Brentwood on numerous issues it's helped us. When you drive from one place to another, you don't really know you're in Brentwood or you're in Franklin. We're in Williamson County, and everybody's trying to help each other out when we can. So we appreciate that cooperation.
Good work. between the cities. Any other major road improvements underway or being considered?
No, not at this point. I mean, those are
Yeah.
the main ones that we're involved in. Obviously, we got a few looking at some spot improvement areas, as you mentioned. Just a turn lane here or there at an intersection can make a dramatic difference. So as an offshoot of the 2020 results, we're looking at, as we look at next year's budget, trying to come up with a package of smaller spot improvements, though, that we think can make a significant impact at a few locations around the city, but nothing definitive right now.
Right. Now, Mayor, you mentioned in some of our communication prior to today about a traffic agreement with Metro. What is that?
We have a grant to work with metropolitan government up in Nashville to look at the Old Hickory Boulevard corridor from Granny White down through Old Hickory to Franklin Road, and that is all in Metro. That part is in Metro, but it's the third busiest intersection in all of Nashville, and so we're trying to see what we can do, possible suggestions as coordinating some of our signals with their signals. At this point, we have fiber optic cable that helps to run some of our signals. We can actually manually work with those from a traffic center that we have, whereas Metro doesn't have that. Possibility we might extend some fiber up there, but this is a study to decide or to suggest some things that might be done. There are 33 signals that are involved in this, from the Granny White Pike intersection all the way up to Franklin Road. So it's an expensive process. It's going to take a long time, but it's worth figuring out because I think it'll help that intersection.
Great. Change subjects over to Parks and Rec. One of the things that you mentioned that people appreciated about Brentwood is the recreation opportunities. You've probably got the best walking path, what do you call them?
Greenways.
Greenways,
We
excuse me.
do.
That connect almost from one side of the city to the other. And Smith Park is right on, I guess, the southern end of all that right now. But give us an update on that, as well as the other Parks and Rec opportunities.
Actually, that includes a little bit of the roads too, because we have built a road up to the park, a bridge over the railroad, which was an amazing process. It took a long time, and have had a sneak preview, and the 3 or 4 weddings, I believe, that have occurred there to this point. 1825 mansion was restored, and it is just an incredible place. That's just when you get to the mansion, but behind that, there 200 plus acres of wonderful hiking land and trails that Parks and are working on, trying to get it ready for the public. I'm going to defer to Kirk as to timelines and that sort of thing, what all might be there in the first phase, but I think right now we have 4 phases as we've started to plan it over the years.
That's correct. We first acquired the first 320 acres of the park back in 2010, and then earlier this year closed on the additional 80 acres near the back part of the park. So total of 400 acres, 398 acres out there. As the mayor mentioned, we're a little bit behind schedule, working hard to get the phase 1 improvements done, which is a lot of the major infrastructure that's needed for all the future phases, which is the entry road in, all the utilities and that kind of those issues. As the mayor alluded to, the renovation of the historic home was completed really at the end of 2013. So the first event out there at a wedding was in August. The Historic Commission had a fundraiser event. So we've had several events at the house. Mm-hmm. So we're looking probably a mid to late October kind of grand opening ceremony for the public.
Right.
Although the public certainly isn't shy about ignoring our park closed signs and making their way in there and walking around a little bit anyway, which is fine. But as the mayor alluded to, when we open, you have the historic home and the renovations there, and then we'll have about 8 to 9 miles of hiking trails up in the hills that the Parks Department has been working on really for the last couple years. That'll be marked, and these are natural hiking trails. I want folks to understand they're not paved trails. So it is very much a natural setting out there. And future phases of the park, as we plan those and fund those, will include some athletic fields, unlit athletic fields, more practice type fields near the front, and then the potential for a mountain biking section up in the hills, and then in the additional 80 acres we purchased earlier this year. That's really the flattest land of the 400 acres we have. So again, potential there, that's not been determined, but for some more active athletic fields, potentially even lighted fields, which is a continuing need in Brentwood given all the athletic providers that we have.
Right. I was I was in Crockett Park recently, and I'd been there probably 5 years ago for a political event at the house, and I thought that was all there was there. And just a few weeks ago, my youngest son had a football game with the middle school. There is a multitude of fields and parks back there that...
Yeah, Crockett Park includes, I think, 11 multi-purpose fields, soccer and football and such, 8 baseball fields, and of course, our amphitheater for our
Tennis
summer
courts.
concert series, and 6 or 8 tennis courts, and then it's kind of the central hub of our whole trail system. Most of our trails kind of come and go out of that park. And so when you mentioned the trails earlier, it's certainly something that adds to the quality of life in Brentwood, and that we try, as new development occurs, and that's why you've got a better developed system on the east side of town, because that's where a lot of the newer development is. But as we have any new development or road projects, always try to make sure we have a bike pedestrian facility involved in that, and making connections to our trail system or extensions of it as much as we can. So when Concord Road is done, you'll have a trail all the way out to Nolensville Road,
Right.
with a potential future connection to Metro Nashville's Mill Creek Greenway as we cross Mill Creek there, and then to Smith Park. So, paved trail-wise, we're up near 12 to 15 miles of paved trails. And then, of course, in Smith Park, we'll have the unpaved hiking trails, too.
Now, can you get all the way from from Crockett Park to the center of Brentwood now and Maryland Farms?
No, unfortunately not. The interstate causes us a little bit of a challenge there.
Okay.
Long term, the plan would be to try to, if and when something happens on the Turner property, to try to make that connection there across from Tower Park, which is on the east side of 65 there.
Right.
There's discussions about how we might go under the interstate there where the river comes underneath. But that's all somewhat future development driven. And as I said, the west side of town isn't nearly as well developed in terms of trails, because the trail networks, the development of that started after most of those neighborhoods were developed. So retrofitting those is a little bit more of a challenge, because usually you're in somebody's backyard,
Right.
or crossing their property to make that connection, whereas when we do it with new development, it's planned at the time, and the trail's in place before a house is ever built. So that makes it a lot easier to work with. And that's why,
Right.
again, the east side is a little better developed.
I can appreciate that. Anything else on the Parks and Recreation front?
No.
Certainly, you all have done a good job at that. Water and sewer. That's the most unappreciated piece of city government, probably, but maybe one of the most important. So, what have y'all?
There's no doubt that water and sewer, for anybody in a growing community, that's the number one determining factor as to where and how much you can grow. So we in Brentwood are a little bit unique, for those folks who don't understand, in that we have no treatment facilities on either side of that. We don't treat our own water, produce our own water. We have to buy our water majority from Harpeth Valley Utility District. The rest comes from Metro Nashville. And then in terms of sewage, we have no sewage treatment plant, so we ship all of our sewage to Metro Nashville and have an agreement with them to treat our sewage. So on the one hand, it's a lot easier to operate from just a day-to-day operational standpoint when you don't have those facilities. But the negative of that, of course, is we're beholden to contracts with those and capacity limits we have from those providers. We recently just not renegotiated, but renewed our contract with Metro Nashville for sewer treatment. We're one of several satellite cities that have the similar arrangement with Metro Nashville. So our issue with sewer is really capacity limit as to what we can ship them. And so that's always an issue we're looking at long-term in terms of what's our ability to grow and what's our capacity limit, and do those match up, or do we need to look for more capacity long-term? And we're in the midst of several planning studies to look at that issue, and I think that will be an issue over the next 12 months or so that we'll have to grapple with in terms of long-term planning for our sewer capacity issues. Water-wise is a little bit different. We're a little better shape there, but we are in the midst of a major water capacity project on the west side of Brentwood for anybody who lives out there in terms of the Granny White, Bell Reeve, Johnson Chapel area. We're upsizing a major water transmission line from kind of out by Murray Lane, Scale School area, all the way to the Brentwood Middle School, Murray Lane, Granny White construction area. So we've been literally trenching right down the middle of Johnson Chapel, Bell Reeve Drive for about the last 3 months. So any residents there know what that's been, and we certainly appreciate their patience. They've been very patient as we deal with traffic issues related to that. Mm-hmm. But our goal here is to increase the amount of water we can get in. I think we've discussed this before, but in Brentwood we have to build a water system that is essentially about 4 times the size of what's needed really for daily water use because of our summer irrigation demand. Our water use in the winter months is about 3 million gallons a day. In the middle of a hot, dry summer, we'll be at 12 million gallons a day, and it's really all irrigation.
Is that right?
So, there's some challenges with having to overbuild the system that much. But that's what we're trying to do, and all of our water comes in kind of on the northwest side of the city, and we have to move it all the way to the southeast side of the city. So that's part of the line improvements of upsizing lines in order to move that water around the system, fill the tanks, and be able to meet our summer demand. So it's a significant undertaking, but that's one of those things you got to do.
I'll mention one more thing that complicates it even more. What Kirk has just spoken about is just the Brentwood city water system.
Right.
But the city of Brentwood is actually served by more than one water system. And it depends upon where you live within the city, which one serves you.
Right.
You've got Nolensville College Grove that serves down by Governor's Club. You've got Mallory Valley that serves sort of the northwest corner as well. Then you've got other places that serve around Moore's Lane that aren't the Brentwood water system. And so people honestly don't sometimes know which water system. They pay their bill, but they still think that it's all Brentwood. So it's difficult sometimes to explain that each district has been drawn out for years, and that's actually designated by the legislature at some point, way back in the day. So.
Are you saying you get some phone calls from people
A few.
that
Why won't you why are you rationing my water?
As the mayor said, it is confusing for folks because we'll have sewer customers who aren't our water customers and vice versa. People do need to understand, of course, that from a utility standpoint, those operations are operated as a enterprise fund, which means that there aren't tax dollars to go to support those. It's all the rates that are paid by the rate users. So if someone that lives in East Brentwood is not on a Brentwood water system, their tax dollars are not paying for water improvements. It's only the rate payers on our water system that are paying for those improvements. But that is a confusing factor because people think they live in Brentwood, they should be getting Brentwood water, especially if the other providers' rates are higher than ours.
Right.
That's usually if they're lower, we usually don't hear from them, but if they're higher, we'll hear from them.
Speaking of water, subject that's near and dear to my heart, but the flood of 2010, has that produced any issues or any additional adjustments that y'all are having to make?
We were certainly impacted by the flood of 2010, maybe not as much as some other communities. I think we had a total of 4 homes that were considered totally destroyed. We purchased through some FEMA money, purchased 2 of those, and the other 2 were rehabbed to meet the new standards. So you've got a couple houses out there that are a little bit raised up and such. So city facility-wise, we had some minor damage, and that's long since been remediated. Community-wide, we're in the midst, along with Nashville, Franklin, Williamson County. The Corps of Engineers is doing a study. Our portion of that is really related to updating some flood mapping. Some areas that did see some flooding that weren't mapped as flood areas back in 2010. We're trying to accurately reflect those.
Right.
You know, that may result in some areas and some homes that were not in a flood zone before now being in a flood zone, which, you know, brings into the issue of flood insurance and such. But we feel it's more appropriate for someone who has that risk to know it on the front end than to find out afterwards. So that's one issue we're doing. The other thing we've done, and I'm sure the other communities have also, is we have, it was a lesson for us just internally in terms of our emergency management operations and all that. So we've really stepped up some of our planning and training in terms of emergency management internally within our staff. I have a member of our fire department who's our emergency management director who kind of lives for that type of thing and has done a great job of pulling the other departments in on a more routine basis to train so that when the next event does happen, whether it's a flood or some other natural disaster, that we're a little better prepared internally, operationally to respond.
Right. Now, I'm not sure I've heard, but has it ever been settled whether that flood was a 100-year flood or 500-year flood or what? Not that it matters, I don't think, but but people ask me that question. Has that ever been settled, or do you know?
You know, as I understand it, you really can't say what year flood it was. You just know the level at which it came, and you can. I'd heard 1,000. I've heard 100. I think it was greater than 100, but that we've seen before in 100. But
right.
I don't know that you can put numbers to it really.
As far as the new flood maps, is that flood the new 100-year flood level, or?
I don't know that we've seen the maps yet out
Yeah.
of the study. It's
Okay.
still an ongoing
Okay.
study, but it will certainly be one of the baselines that we look at in terms of where those new lines are at. Yeah, I've heard, you know, that it was at a minimum 2 days in a row, back-to-back 100-year floods,
Yeah.
and I've heard 500-year floods too. I don't know that there has been an official, but it's unfortunate, you know, that we're seeing more and more of these intense rain events.
Mm-hmm.
You tell people, well, that was a 100-year flood, they think, okay, I'm good for another 99 years. Well, it could happen tomorrow,
Right.
as we saw in May, or it could happen next month. It's just the probability, but we are seeing, and it's not just here, we've seen it across the country in terms of
Right.
significant weather events.
Just pardon my digressing there, but again, I get to ask the questions, so there you go.
Well, there's really no answer.
The police and fire, what's going on there? What's new, Mayor?
Very proud of them. Our police department has had another year of working with CALEA, which is their agency that works with their certification. As I recall, this year when the folks came through, there was a use of the word perfect at some point, which I thought was great. Chief Hughes and his staff do a fantastic job, so they are expected to receive their certification again. Just as importantly, our fire department with Chief Goss has undergone a rigorous study for the first time for international accreditation and came out with flying colors and have just been in Texas to receive that. Well, I'd say it's an honor. They work very, very hard for it, and so that the international certification, it's the first time that the Brentwood Fire Department has had that. We're one of how many?
One of 5 in Tennessee,
Tennessee.
one of 200 around the world.
So it's quite an honor and good job.
Yeah.
Great job. So both of our public safety folks are internationally certified now.
Interesting. We normally leave some time now for our audience to ask questions or raise issues that they have on their minds. And if you have something that you'd like to address to the mayor or city manager, if you would step to the podium, we'd like to hear from you and see what else might be on your minds out there. While you're gathering your thoughts, I've got a couple other things to ask, but go ahead and step forward if you would. But wine and grocery stores, front page of the Tennessean this morning. When's wine going to be in the grocery stores in Brentwood?
Well, it'll be as I understand it, on the ballot in November. I think in Brentwood, Franklin, all of Williamson County, I believe. If it passes, then that's another one of those, people are still going to have to wait. I think it's July of 2016 then would still be the earliest point that you'll actually be able to buy a bottle of wine in a grocery store. And the legislation to get it to this point, like a lot of legislation, has to try to accommodate the interests of a varying different groups. So, the schedule for all that was related to give some time for the liquor store owners to kind of transition their business model, and they began selling other items, I think even earlier this year,
Right.
in terms of items they can now sell. So if it passes in November, again, I think it takes until July of 2016 for that to go into effect.
Okay. And one other subject that is very important to the chamber, and to most people that move to Williamson County is the school system. And I know Brentwood actually funds those schools that lie in the city of Brentwood. How does that work, and what benefits do you all see from doing that, Madam Mayor?
Well, we have, of course, the taxes that go to the county. The school system is actually run by the county, but in addition to the taxes that go to the school system from our taxes, we also have supplemental donation each year. It's a line item on our budget, and since 1986, each commission has decided to donate additional funds to our schools. And so each year we donate $60,000 to each of our high schools located in the city of Brentwood, $15,000 to middle schools, and $10,000 to every elementary school. And since 1986, we're over $4 million worth of extra supplemental aid to our local schools located in the city of Brentwood. And that money does not go into the budget of the school system to pay for teachers or that sort of thing. What it does is it really goes to the PTOs to help them decide what they need. It might be to fund an additional reading teacher. Most of the time it goes to technology. We've seen that happen year after year, and this year the discussion was buying cows. So that's computers on wheels. And so they were feeding cows with our money this year, and we're very fortunate to have the principals come and speak to us and tell us what they were doing, and it's just it's an honor to be able to add additional funds to an already fantastic school system. Just makes it even better with local control. So.
Sounds like a good partnership there. And speaking of partnerships, I see Mayor Rogers Anderson with us. Mayor, would you come up just a minute? I know that there are many ways that the county partners with the various cities across the county. I know I've conversations with you, you've expressed some frustration with the things that you can't do because of state law. Explain, first of all, some of the good things going on, and then mention, if you would, some of the things that you would like to see happening that maybe need a law changed or something done that could help facilitate the partnerships between the county and the city.
Well, thank you and good morning. I guess the best way to start off would be just recently, Mr. Crouch, last Thursday, Mayor Moore could stand up here and be part of this announcement, right, too. But there's an organization in Nashville called the Greater Nashville Regional Council, and that's made up of 9 or 11 different counties. I forgot how many cities in all of those counties, and they give out an award once a year, usually to a deserving individual that has put in a lot of time and tenure service for their community. But this year's award went to the entire cities and county in Williamson County for their interactive ability to get things done and work together, is a nicer way to say that. And the mayor, mayors, and all of our mayors, the 6 mayors, along with the county, received this award, and there was some information that was provided to that. And so I guess that's the best way to say to you that this city, these cities and county, and particularly Brentwood, we do try to work together. It's the first time that award's ever been given out across a area in dealing with regional issues. So without just pointing a finger at Betsy or Ken or any of the other mayors, I think it is good to know that our community, that our county and cities work together to try to find solutions. Many times, Kurt, it was mentioned about emergency management or public safety, law enforcement. I'm very proud the way that we work, our memorandums of understanding, to make this a safer, better place for all of our communities to work. And sometimes we put a lot of emphasis on our public education, which we have an outstanding public education, but the vast majority of people never really see what goes on behind the scenes in the things that Brentwood and Franklin and Spring Hill Thompson Station, Fairview and Nolensville all put in to make this a safe place. On the other side, I think some of the issues facing us, there's got to be transportation. We've got to find some ways that we can get our people from point A to point B, and that's a issue I know Franklin's dealing with specifically. We're trying to deal with it in the county. I know they'll be dealing with it in their own way. They have to deal, but when we travel, we really don't know the difference between Old Hickory Boulevard that it separates Davidson County and Williamson County. And if you travel 65, if you travel Hillsborough Road, if you travel Franklin Road, you know that we have transportation issues, and a lot of it is the growth affiliated with that. I think when you deal with the state law, currently the way, and I think this is what you're referring to in the transportation areas, that in the unincorporated area of Williamson County, that's outside the cities, in our tax rate of $2.31, we have a nickel that goes towards transportation highways. And our highway department is run by a very sound superintendent, Eddie Hood, and we have nearly 80 men and women that work over there that provide a lot of issues for our roads, but they can't come into the cities. And the cities can't go out into the county.
Versa, yeah.
Right.
And the state goes through all of it, but they don't have enough money, so we have to belly up. You were talking about wine a minute ago. I was thinking belly up to the bar. If you want projects, you're gonna have to put money into you're gonna have to put some more skin in the game and get those done. And you can certainly see that up on Concord Road.
Right.
And so it's a real challenge. That's not to pick on Commissioner Schroer, because I think he's doing what he can do because you're limited funding, but we've got to find other ways to get people from point A to point B. We have to find solutions to finding transportation issues. It'll be some busing, it'll be some van pools, it'll be some carpooling, but it will be a model that this county has got to figure out a solution for.
Right. The, well, if you could change anything about the way transportation is planned, I know you've recently served as the chairman of an organization called the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which looks at the big picture of all the transportation needs around the metropolitan Nashville area. And I think the mayors all serve on that commission as well. But from the 30,000-foot perspective, we got another 5 minutes. Mayor Moore, if you could help us out. But what could be done, whether it's politically, administratively, that could expedite some of these things?
I asked Mayor Moore to step up here because last Wednesday or Thursday, there was a meeting in Nashville dealing with this very topic. Mm-hmm. And it became very, very interesting at the close of the meeting. I was not able to be there, but Dr. Moore, the mayor of Franklin, he was there. He chairs this meeting. And there was a lot of interesting dialogue that occurred. And if you don't mind, Dave,
sure,
I'd like to pass the baton. We'll let him handle that one.
Mayor
Well,
Moore.
good morning, and
Welcome.
I'd like to again mention that award that Rogers mentioned, that we are blessed as a county and as cities to be able to work together, and surprisingly, that's not the case everywhere.
Right.
But you know, I have been very involved in transportation planning, just as Mayor Crosley and Mayor Anderson have on the Metropolitan Planning Commission. And as chairman of the Mayor's Caucus, we've also had plenty of discussion about our transit challenges in the future. The 2035 study from the MPO shows that we'll be in gridlock if we don't do anything. And as Kirk mentioned, we can't build enough roads to satisfy the needs. So we've got to be looking at multimodal transit options in the future. And the future is now. And the challenge of developing additional transit options revolves around some type of dedicated funding. We know from other cities that are competitor cities or competitor regions for us, most of them have already addressed the dedicated funding issue. And what Rogers was referring to is the discussion at the recent MPO meeting about it's time for us to come forward with some type of dedicated funding specifically targeting transit in the future. You know, my comment is, what do we got to sell to attach it to the dedicated funding? So that conversation does need to occur here. It needs to occur in our each one of our communities in the county and in the region, because we've got to start talking about it. You know, things that have been looked at, such as additional revenue that could be obtained from the vehicle emission inspections, been looked at for the region to discuss additional fees added to your vehicle registration, which we're blessed that ours is not very high, but some counties it's much higher. And the bottom line is that probably the most equitable way at this time seems to be something that could revolve around the gasoline tax. We know that that's an issue Senator Corker has brought up on the federal level. You know, and so that's a discussion that needs to occur. I don't have the answer, but we've got to talk about the dedicated funding. We can't just keep saying, well, we'll build another road. We have to start looking at those options that our competitor regions have looked at.
Right. So the gas tax, is that the one that our competitor regions have reached out to?
No,
primarily?
Some have done it with additional sales tax revenue, but many of our cities in the region have already maxed out on the level of sales tax that they can charge. We still have 0.25% in ours, and I don't raise the gasoline taxes. That's the answer. I'm just saying that's one that a lot of people tend to drift toward right now.
Right. Mayor Moore, Mayor Anderson, we appreciate you all providing a little more color to these issues. Mayor Crossley, any final comments?
When November comes, I hope everybody will get out and vote. Voting seems to be one of the things that's the most important way to express your opinion. And I know in Brentwood we've had light turnout very often for things, and I think maybe November we might see extra because of the wine and grocery stores, but let's not make that the only thing that we come out and vote for.
Well, interestingly enough, that's a great segue into our next show that I wanted to mention this morning. But we will meet here again on October 27th, and our plan on October 27th is to discuss some of the issues that will be on the ballot the following week for the November ballot, including some of the constitutional amendments that are being discussed. But we'll have to touch on the wine and grocery stores and make sure everybody's aware of that one. We really appreciate all of you being with us this morning. We always have appreciate our audience, and even though you were shy this morning and I had to call for volunteers, we appreciate you being here and hope you'll come back. Mayor Crossley, Kirk, appreciate your being with us this morning, and look forward to having you back about this time next year.
All right, look forward.
Thank you very much.